You gotta love the boat. Good old Blake Bortles makes this list, and he sits in at number 36, and I think there's several reasons why I'm putting him here. I mean, this guy's definitely had an odd career. He looked very promising his first couple of years, but definitely as a whole just didn't really develop the way they wanted him to. That being said, this guy has been to an AFC Championship game, granted on the backs of a very strong defense, but regardless, they have made an AFC Championship game with Blake Bortles as quarterback. And I do think it's worth mentioning that Blake Bortles isn't as bad as people try to make him out to be. He's certainly far from a superstar, however, he definitely was the scapegoat for that Jacksonville offense over the past few years. They just did not have a lot of talent on that side of the football. That's kind of one of the reasons why I'm worried about Nick Foles next season, is their talent is clearly on their defensive side of the ball, not on their offensive side of the ball. Which again, can be a good thing, but I'm just saying, I'm not sure how well their offense will be next year. But anyways, this video is not about how the Jacksonville Jaguars offense will be next season. This is the video about Blake Bortles, and Blake Bortles can play. Probably Blake Bortles' best game last season was the game against the Patriots when everyone was convinced that they were going to go to the Super Bowl. He had a spectacular game, and one of the reasons why was because of plays like this. If you take a look, it's going to be man coverage, and take a look at that one Patriot right there. If you watched my last video about Josh Rosen, one of the things I talked about is that when it's man coverage and there's only one safety back, you have a pretty good idea that it's going to be cover 1. It could also be cover 0 or a cover 3 man with only a 3-man rush, but the chances are it's going to be cover 1. However, there's also just some creative play calls you can have, and this one's going to be one of those. Instead of that Patriot being the safety deep, he's actually going to be in charge of covering that tight end right there. Then they're going to have a Patriot who's lined up at the line and actually drop back into coverage. He's going to fake as though he's rushing, but then drop back into coverage, and it's going to essentially be a cover 0 here. So now the next thing to look at will be that Patriot right there who's blitzing, and he's actually going to get through completely untouched. So this is now clearly not a good situation for Blake Bortles. I mean, he knows it's man coverage and knows that if there is a receiver who's going to get open, he'll know which receiver it is and be able to hit them very quickly. However, there's a Patriot right in his face right now. But look at how he's going to easily able to simply just sidestep the Patriot and get way past him. I mean, that's just great footwork by Bortles, and now he has a receiver who he knows could get open. That receiver isn't open now, but Blake Bortles is a smart guy. Blake Bortles knows who to throw to. The second that receiver does get open, Blake Bortles is able to hit him, and they're able to pick up a first down. So really just a tremendous play by Bortles there. To be aware enough to know what's going on, and also, of course, just have the footwork to be able to convert something like that. I mean, clearly Blake Bortles can play after watching that one play. You see, okay, that's what this guy has talent. That's why this guy went 3rd overall way back when. I mean, when you're going up against a Brian Flores, Bill Belichick defense, they're going to throw the entire book at you. However, Bortles responded very well to having the book thrown at him. Like on this one, it was another creative play call that was happening right now. As you see that one Patriot right there, what he's going to do? He's going to take a step in. He's doing that because he's going to be rushing the passer here. And this is actually going to be man coverage, and it's going to be a cover 1 play. And again, because there's only one safety back, you pretty much know that it's either going to be cover 1 or cover 0. Now that one Patriot who's showing as though he's going to be blitzing could actually be dropping back into coverage. However, for Bortles, he doesn't care. He has a receiver running on the sideline, and he's going to say, that's the receiver I'm throwing to. He's not even going to hesitate. He makes a good throw that the receiver just isn't able to make the catch, but that was just a good throw. I mean, that was just exactly where you want that ball to be. It was to the back shoulder where only the receiver could make the play, and he wasn't able to make the play. If you notice, he even puts his hand up saying, my bad, Blake. That was a good play by you. I just got to make those plays. I believe the Jerry Rice expression is, if you can touch it, you can catch it. And while granted, Jerry Rice is ridiculous, I mean, I think that is kind of the mindset you have to have as a receiver. There is no, oh, it's just out of my grasp, I only was able to get a hand on it. Either you can catch it or you can't touch it at all. That should be the mindset, at least. And again, obviously there are instances where the ball actually is just so close that you can touch it but not catch it, but you know what I'm trying to say. This play was actually another very similar thing happening, this time in the red zone, and it's going to be one-on-one coverage right there on the outside, and since that receiver is running a flat route, well then, okay, that's just the perfect place to throw the ball to then. So Bortles is going to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take a shot there. As long as it gets high enough and close enough to the sideline, there will be no chance Gilmore is able to pick it off, and it'll either be a touchdown or it'll be incomplete. That's why you see these so often in the end zone, because it's the last place you want to turn the ball over. However, it's definitely something you want to be able to try to convert a play on. So as you see, there's not really any separation right now. I mean, there's just basically no separation at all, actually. But what you do see is that while Gilmore is turned around, the Jaguars receiver is turned closer to the ball. He's ready to try to make a catch. So he is going to actually leap up and make a great catch here, and it was a great catch, but the reason why it was able to be a great catch is because Bortles put in a situation where only his receiver could catch it. That one was either going to be a touchdown or an incomplete pass. That was exactly what you want to do with that ball, and it was just a great throw by Bortles, and just smart throw by Bortles. Bortles really went from the high of highs to the low of lows last season, where he was on top of the world after that Patriots win. However, things definitely came tumbling down later in the season. One of Bortles' biggest problems is accuracy, which, ability to throw the football is kind of important in the quarterback position. While as you saw from his last 2 passes, he definitely can make some very good throws, however, oftentimes he will just completely miss on a throw. He's weird because he's not like one of those guys that just always is a little bit off. He's one of those guys that's either right on or he'll just throw it 10 yards away from where he's trying to throw it to. Like on this play, it's going to be a cover 1 blitz, and he has a receiver running an out route right there in the top half of the screen, which is a great route to run against the cover 1 blitz, so Bortles is going to look to try to throw it there. So after this play develops, one thing you'll notice is that receiver actually doesn't do a very good job of getting too open. You'll actually see that on a number of these plays. I mean, the reality is the Jaguars really lack the number 1 receiver they have for some time now. So Bortles does kind of have to work with what he's got. However, even if that defensive back just fell over, there's no chance of this being a completion because Bortles completely whiffed on this throw. I mean, that looks like when I'm playing football out there and just completely throw one nowhere near where I'm trying to throw it to. I mean, that's just not a great throw by Bortles. And it's kind of weird, right? Because, I mean, you saw those last 2 plays. This guy can make some throws, and he will at times be like, oh man, Bortles can play. Bortles actually is very good. And then he'll look like he's throwing with his non-dominant hand out there. It's very bizarre. That is partially why he is on this list, is the fact that he can at times be very good, and then also at times be very bad. That's why he's at 36. If we only saw good Blake Bortles, he'd be in the top 15. But if we only saw bad Blake Bortles, he'd be out of the league. And again, it should be mentioned that part of the problem with Blake Bortles is that while he isn't the best quarterback, they also had no talent around him. And again, strictly speaking on that offensive side of the ball, their offensive line had been mediocre, and Leonard Fournette was pretty much the only guy in the backfield, but he has had some injuries. And that kind of hurts when you have a quarterback who's maybe not a star quarterback. When you don't have a lot of talent around him, he can't rely on other players. Like on a play like this, for example, it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and he's also going to be running play action, which is actually pretty good against the cover 3 zone. Because those are the routes his receivers will be running, and that one route in particular is perfect against the cover 3 zone. At least it's perfect against a cover 3 zone when you're running play action, because what's going to happen is that the linebackers are going to move in because it could potentially be a run, and that'll open up that gap in coverage. Not to mention because their Jaguars are also running deep, which will push the safeties back. This could now create a pretty big window for Bortles to try to make a throw to, and that actually is what's going to end up happening. As you see, he's open, and if I do have to make a nitpick on Bortles here, he should have thrown this ball already. This ball should have been thrown now. He's trying to wait a little bit too long here, and I guess there is some reason for it because the linebackers are getting back. He's going to try to wait until those linebackers spread out a little bit. However, I think he probably should just throw it now and try to just throw it a little bit above that tight end right there. Basically throw it 6 inches above his head essentially, so that way the linebackers can't get to it, but he still can, and even if he missed the throw a little bit high, he can still leap up and try to make the catch. Bortles waits a little bit too long. However, his intended target is going to do him no favors here. He just isn't able to hang on to this ball and ends up falling incomplete. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Was it a great play by Bortles? No. Was there a definite mistake by Bortles on that one? Yes, he held on to the ball a little bit too long. But is that a play that on every team with every receiver is going to end up in an incompletion? Honestly, no. I mean, sure, not every team has a great player in every single position. Sometimes you are going to have to throw it to mediocre players. That's part of being in the NFL. But when you don't have any great receivers, it definitely creates some problems for a quarterback. But also, I do have to be fair. Not all Blake Bortles' problems have came from his weak supporting cast. Like on this one, it's a cover 1 hole, and he has a receiver running a crossing route right over there. So again, great route to beat man coverage. This is where Blake Bortles is going to be looking to throw the ball to. It takes a little bit of time to develop, of course, but the pocket is going to be relatively clean, so Bortles has time to wait for his receiver to get open and then try to make a throw, and as you see right now, that receiver is absolutely open. One thing I do have to mention about Bortles, he did kind of throw off his back foot a little bit. Nothing drastic, but definitely something I noticed. However, what's much more noticeable is the fact that this throw is nowhere near where it needs to be. I mean, that's just an awful throw. That's an accuracy thing right there. That's why I always say accuracy is the most important thing as a quarterback. I don't care if you can't throw it as hard as some other guys or as far as some other guys. I care how accurate you are. There also is one other flaw in Blake Bortles' game, and it's the fact that he will just sometimes make these complete head-scratching decisions that make you go, Bortles, what on earth are you doing? Like on this one, the way this play is going to work is that Jacksonville is going to have their center and right guard each double team that chief right over there. Then they're going to pull their halfback right out there, and it's going to be a quick screen pass right in the middle of the screen, but they're also going to have their center get off that double team and move out the lead block for the halfback. That's the way this play is designed to work. It's almost like a running play, but with a screen pass to basically guarantee you already get past the line of scrimmage. And as you see, the running back does end up getting past the line of scrimmage, so that's where Bortles is going to try to throw to. However, there's one problem. There's literally a chief right in front of him. And again, sometimes this just happens when an offensive lineman is in your way and you can't really see what's going on. However, if you look, there is no offensive lineman in the way. Bortles just wasn't paying attention. It actually looked like he kind of tried to throw it over Chris Jones right there. However, that was just a terrible attempt to try to throw it over him because he basically threw it straight into his hands. So either he wasn't paying attention and threw it straight to Chris Jones, or he was paying attention and made a terrible throw. But either way, I mean, that's just a terrible play by Bortles, and that can't happen. You won't break the top 35 of this list making plays like that. You just won't, because a play like that is a complete game changer. I mean, that cost him 6.94 points. Anytime you're costing a team that much points on one play, it's a disastrous play. The Chiefs game last year was kind of the beginning of the end in a sense. While yes, Blake Bortles did actually throw for over 400 yards, it was one of the worst 400-yard performances you will ever see. Like, this one was another one from that game. It's a cover one hole, and he has a receiver running that route right there, which in a split second will be open kind of in the middle of the screen. I mean, there will be one-on-one coverage, however, if you can fit it through there is a chance that receiver could get open. It's maybe something to look for, not necessarily something that you're going to be expecting to be open on this play. However, what's going to happen actually is that after this play develops, there is going to be a window for Bortles to try to hit it through there. I mean, not a huge window, but a window nonetheless. He's going to have to throw it on a line and have to make a good throw, and it's also a dangerous pass because if he throws it too low or too high, it could be intercepted. But Bortles is going to say, hey, I don't have an accuracy problem, I can make it through there. And that's definitely a regrettable decision, as his throw is nowhere close to where it has to be and ends up being a very easy interception for Kansas City. That's also one of the other problems that Bortles has, whereas some of these other quarterbacks have kind of realized that maybe they don't have certain strengths, and so they play things a lot more safe. Blake Bortles is not one to play things safe, even if he will throw some interceptions from time to time, that is for sure. Okay, so now you might be thinking, wait a second, Jackson, you just mentioned a lot of negatives about Blake Bortles, so why do you have him on the list at all then? I mean, I put him above guys like Colt McCoy, RG3, Brian Hoyer, Josh Rosen. These aren't superstars, but they're pretty solid backups at least. Rosen, of course, being the one exception to the rule, is not a solid backup, but a guy with starting level talent potential. But anyways, why is Bortles over there? And there's one reason why I decided to put Bortles just a little bit above all those guys, and it's the fact that Bortles has actually shown that he can play in the big games. And of course, I'm strictly speaking in terms of NFL big games, not college big games. Guys like Colt McCoy and Josh Rosen that just never happened to play in one. But RG3 didn't particularly do too well in the one playoff game he played in, granted he was hurt in classic RG3 fashion. And I don't even think I have to mention Brian Hoyer's playoff success or lack thereof. Meanwhile, Bortles has proven that he can come through in the clutch, and this play would be a good example of it. It was late in the game against the Bills, but Bortles has proven that in the big games, in the clutch moments, he can come through, and this play would be a good example of it. It was a 3-3 game with 7 minutes left in the third, and I mean, yeah, it was 3-3 because their offenses weren't doing too well. But in this situation, look at what Bortles was able to do. It was a cover 3 zone, and it's play action, and so with that route right there, it could get past the linebackers that are drawn in from the play action, and hopefully there will be a big enough window for Bortles to try to make a throw through, because that's the way this play is designed to work. And after the play action, the receiver does get relatively open, and Bortles times the throw perfectly and are able to make a big completion to get inside field goal range. That's not exactly Aaron Rodgers Hail Marys going on over there, but it's a very good throw, especially in the circumstances. Maybe Colt McCoy could make a throw like that against a good Buffalo Bills defense in the playoffs, but we haven't seen it yet. And again, I'm not saying that's the only reason Bortles is on this list. To me, this is more of a tiebreaker than anything. I think you can make an argument that he should be number 36 regardless, but because he does have a little bit of playoff experience, I think that's why I'm putting him exactly at 36. Really, I was going back and forth between him and Rosen, but I decided, you know what, he has the playoff experience, even though Rosen might be very good in the playoffs as well. We haven't seen it yet. We have seen it from Bortles, so I'll give him the tiebreaker in that regard. Also, Bortles just older, and maybe after 4 years, Rosen will be ahead of Bortles, but that's the reason why I have him in those two spots for today. But anyways, that's what I think. Let me know. Do you think Blake Bortles should be higher? Do you think he should be lower? Should he be off the list entirely? Let me know. I know Bortles is kind of a polarizing figure because he has kind of become a meme at this point, but he's also a really nice guy, and a lot of people really like his personality. So you have some guys that think he's absolutely the worst, and you have some guys who think he's way better than he actually is, which makes it kind of tough for the rating. So you have some guys who think that he's absolute garbage, and then you have some other guys who think that he's actually a really good player who's underrated and was in a bad situation. Personally, I don't think either one of those situations are true, but let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.